Hello YouTube, Mike Kohanem here. Today I'm going to show you some of the cards in one of my oldest binders that I have accumulated throughout the years. Almost all of the cards in this binder I got before I competed in the World Championship in 2009. So most of these cards are old cards that I placed in this binder because they were special to me or because there's a story behind them or a reason I was collecting it. So I'm hoping that this is just a fun video to watch, nostalgic for people who played in the old days, way back when these cards were first released. And if you didn't play back then, I'm hoping that it's informative, as the stories themselves will give you the context in which a lot of these cards were played or the reason that at one point they were popular. You might wonder, as you're going to see the binder, how I got all of these cards, why I got all of these cards. I'll explain some of my collecting habits from the time that I got these cards, but I will also tell you that card games have been such an important part of my life for my entire life. From when I was under 10 years old, going to the Pokemon League at Toys R Us, before the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game even came out, to the time I started watching the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cartoon and fell in love with Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. I played virtually every card game out there, but no card game was more influential in my life, and there's no card game that I enjoyed more than the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, which is why I have such a massive collection. I've been playing since I was, before I was a teenager, probably from the age of 12. I was collecting and playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Now 20 years later, I have all of these cards. I almost never sold cards. I rarely sold cards. Once in a while I would, but I rarely sold cards and constantly picked up cards that I wanted, either for my collection or for a deck. And because I was so into it, and because it was so integral to my life, I have a phenomenal collection of cards, and this binder is just a small glimpse into it. Every card in this binder, or at least most of the cards in this binder, are sentimental to me. They're not cards that I would consider getting rid of, and there's a great story behind that I am looking forward to sharing. If you enjoy nostalgic videos like this one, and want to see other pieces of Yu-Gi-Oh! History that I have in my collection and the stories behind them, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It'll tell me what viewers enjoy, and encourage me to make more videos like it. I have such a massive collection of cards. This one binder is such a small quantity of cards in my collection, although some of the rarest cards in my collection are in the binder that I will show you today. Before I talk about the cards in my collection, I first want to talk about the mat that I'll be doing the video on, as well as the binder that the cards that I'll be talking about today are in. The mat is a remote duel game mat that I recently won in a Duel Links Remote Duel Invitational qualifier. I missed out by a couple spots of making it to the Invitational, but I got this really nice mat featuring Alistair as prizing for making the top 16 of the Invitational qualifier. The binder rather, may not seem very special to you. It's just a blue Monster Protector binder. But believe it or not, when I was younger, binders like this rarely existed. The side-loading pockets were novel to the Monster Protector binder, and I remember being at the World Championship qualifier and all the players talking about how awesome this binder imported from Germany is, how the side-loading pockets stop cards from falling out, how sturdy it is, how many cards it holds. And if I remember correctly, this binder was actually only available at the time in the one color of blue. They later made more colors, if my memory serves correctly, And in today's day and age, this binder is not that impressive. We now have tons of side-loading binders and binders that even zip up, prevent water damage. I have tons of them myself if something spills on the binder. But at the time I got this binder, this was as good as it got. Monster Protectors were the brand for protecting your most valuable cards. And it's kind of sentimental to me because these cards, once I built a binder for the cards I liked most, I didn't want to change the binder that it was in. So a lot of my cards that I acquired a long time ago are still in this binder, which is why this is the binder that I'll be showing you today. Without further ado, here are the cards in the binder. Admittedly, the first page of the binder is the most impressive because it has 3 copies of Shonen Jump Championship prize cards. The only 3 copies I own, so it would be very hard to top that. These particular cards I actually did not earn by myself, though I did earn 2 copies of Doom Caliber Knight, one by winning a Shonen Jump Championship in Philadelphia, and one by getting 3rd place at a Shonen Jump Championship in Baltimore with Gladiator Beasts. For those who don't know, these Shonen Jump Championship prize cards are extremely rare because they were awarded for winning major Yu-Gi-Oh! Events back in the day called Shonen Jump Championships. Those are the equivalent of modern day YCS or Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series tournaments. So you had to be really skilled to win one of these cards, or it would be really rare to acquire. Fortunately for me, the Cyberstein I was able to acquire for just a couple $100. I don't remember exactly what I paid, but it was at pretty much the lowest price that Cyberstein ever hit. And today it is extremely hard to find, so I'm proud to have one of them in my binder. The Doom Caliber Knights are a little more interesting because I did personally win 2 copies of Doom Caliber Knight, one at a Shonen Jump in Philadelphia and another at a Shonen Jump Championship in Baltimore, both of which I used Gladiator Beast deck in. I got 1st place in Philadelphia, 3rd place in Baltimore. However, these are actually not the Doom Caliber Knights that I won. I remember after winning them, it was fairly early in the season. I was a young kid. It seemed like a lot of money. And I sold the first one I won for $1,200 and the second one I won for $840. I put them on eBay, shipped it out, and it was the most money I'd ever held. Gradually, the price of Doom Caliber Knight actually went down as more of those prize cards were released, and I wanted 2 copies of Doom Caliber Knight for my collection because I had previously earned Doom Caliber Knight. So it was a card that I knew if I waited to get, I would probably never be able to. So I don't remember again exactly what I paid for these Doom Caliber Knights, but I did buy both of them for under the $840 that I sold my second Doom Caliber Knight for. I got each of them for under that, and am very happy to have them in my collection. It has been a while since I've taken these cards out of sleeves, so I don't exactly remember what condition they're in, but I do know that I never played any of these cards in a deck, so they should be pretty good. Here's the Cyberstein. No creases. Oh, I almost tried to put it in the top. Side-loading binder. Now I'll show the 2 Doom Caliber Knights. This is a beautiful card. This is in phenomenal condition. other Dune Caliber Knight is also very nice. No creases. These are the gems of my collection. They are definitely my favorite cards that I own, and I do consider myself very lucky to have them. I also just noticed actually on the Ultra Pro sleeves that the little dot is in the top left corner. That's actually a sign that the sleeve is very old, because you can't find those anymore. Now they're slightly moved over. They've actually changed. See that little dot there? There. You can't find Ultra Pro sleeves with the little dot sticker at that spot. So not only is the card very old, but you also know that the sleeve is too. The other inclusions on this page might actually seem kind of strange. At the time I put them in, I probably did it because they were at playsets, so they look nice on the front page. But on the bottom, I have 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. And Solemn Judgment has always been one of my favorite cards. I used it in my Gladiator Beast deck when I qualified for the World Championship. I used it many years later. It's still a good card today. And at a time in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, I couldn't imagine a card like Solemn Judgment ever ceasing to be good. Being able to just flip a card to stop any card just seemed like something that would be good forever. So it seemed like something worthy of being in the collection. In a binder that I'm just leaving and not touching, just cards that I want to have and I want to keep. In the old days of Yu-Gi-Oh! When Solemn Judgment was first released in Metal Raiders, there was no forbidden list. Cards were limited, but cards were not forbidden. So I didn't really conceive of a time that you couldn't play Solemn Judgment, but it did eventually enter the forbidden list and come back. Nevertheless, I correctly predicted it would be a good card for a long time. It remains a good card. And these are the original copies from Metal Raiders. So I'm very happy to have them. I should actually clarify that I said that these are the original copies from Metal Raiders. I actually just noticed that it says MRD EN127 for the set number. So it looks like it might actually have been printed at a later time, not in the original Metal Raiders. My recollection is back then, the cards did not have the EN. So while this is an old card, it isn't as old as the original Metal Raiders. Nevertheless, Solemn Judgment is a phenomenal card, and that's a nice clean playset of Ultra Rares. At the top of the page is something a little more interesting. That's the 3 copies of Smashing Ground from CPO2, Champion Pack 2. For those who don't know, Champion Packs came after Tournament Packs, which were packs that players got for entering official tournaments, and sometimes as prizing in those official tournaments. So they were pretty hard to come by, and they were usually rarity upgrades for a lot of the cards in the set. The Smashing Ground was interesting because it was such a dominating card in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game that I couldn't ever imagine it not being that good. So it was originally a common in Invasion of Chaos, and it was awesome when a super rare version of it was printed and you can foil it out in your deck. Because it was so good, I wanted to get a play set of it, but the Mike Kohanema many years ago could not possibly imagine that this card just isn't that powerful in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game anymore. Because now we're in a time where you can play Raigeki again, you can play Raigeki-like effects, you can play Dark Hole, and destroying monsters at a 1-for-1 exchange where you use a spell card to destroy a monster just isn't as good as it was back then. Nevertheless, this Smashing Ground is still a pretty sought-after card. and I am lucky to have them in my collection. I guess I picked them up for the wrong reasons, thinking that they would always be incredible in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! But they were very dominating back then because of the Time Wizard format. A lot of players like to use cards from old formats in their decks. And Smashing Ground is one of the rarer ones to have and to use, and one of the more prominent ones throughout the ages of Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's turn the page. Okay, on the second page, we have some of the rarer secret rares from some of the older sets. Elemental Hero Plasma Vice and Super V8 Stealth Union. I don't remember putting them in this binder, but I expect that they were probably pretty rare to have justified me putting them in this binder. Back then, certain secret rares were short printed and harder to get from a set, and that didn't always mean that they were more powerful or better, but them being that rare made them more desirable to me. That is the story of Gilgarth right here. First edition from Gladiator's Assault. Gilgarth is a normal monster with 1800 attack points, level 4. He's basically like Jin, the Mystical Genie of the Lamp, with 200 more defense points, but he was so rare. He was short printed from Gladiator's Assault and very difficult to come by, even though he really had no practical use in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Because all of his value, even at the time, came from collectability, I thought that would be a good card to have, which is why I sought it out for my collection. Gladiator Beast Heraclinos is a story in himself. One of my favorite Gladiator Beast cards, sentimental to me because the Gladiator Beast deck did so much for me and got me to the World Championship, allowed me to win a Shonen Jump Championship, and Gladiator Beast Heraclinos is now in this binder. I have many copies of Heraclinos in all different rarities, including several secret rares, several ultimate rares. I have many different Gladiator Beast decks, but this binder has, I believe, only the one copy of Heraclinos. Maybe we'll see more later. There it is. As a fun story, when I actually won my Shonen Jump Championship in, I believe it was 2007 in Philadelphia, I actually did not own a copy of Gladiator Beast Heraclinos. I borrowed a copy from a friend named Nick. At the time, Gladiator Beast Heraclinos was over $100. I didn't have a single copy of it. I was a young kid. It was by far the most expensive card in the deck, and one of my friends who wasn't going to the event had an extra copy that he allowed me to use. So the deck was more about summoning Gladiator Beast Geyserist, but Heraclinos absolutely came up, and I was very fortunate to have been able to use it at that event because it did pay off for me. I have no recollection as to why Light and Darkness Dragon is in this binder. Pyramid Turtles in there from Champion Pack 2. Champion Pack foils were cards that I always like to collect. Anytime a card got a rarity upgrade, I like to collect them because the rarity upgrades were more desirable than the more basic forms of the card. Many times, if a card is only available in one rarity, if it gets reprinted, it becomes less desirable, or there's more quantity out there. But if a card like Pyramid Turtle already exists in a low rarity, and then they make a higher rarity of it, that higher rarity generally becomes a safer card to hold on to, and harder to get down the line if it becomes more desirable. Pyramid Turtle was really powerful at the time, and like many cards like Smashing Ground, it's hard to imagine a level 4 monster that can summon any zombie from the deck with 2,000 or less defense not being a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh card. But Pyramid Turtle has the weakness of having to be destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard to activate its effect. So it had its time, it had its era, and is no longer relevant in the modern Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. Charge of the Light Brigade was an incredible card from the time it was released into the modern day. I have 3 secret rare copies here. It was just the secret rare version is a beautiful card, and it just was so powerful back then and remains powerful because sending cards from your deck to your graveyard has always been good and continues to be good. On the next page, I have a bunch of Ultimate Rare cards. Similar to rarity upgrades from Champion Pack cards, the rarity upgrades from Ultimate Rare cards are also really nice because they're the highest version of the card at that time. And in way back when, there weren't so many rarity upgrades of cards. Cards didn't exist like they do now as like Starlight Rares and Ultimate Rares and Secret Rares. Usually there was a lower rarity of it, and the card would receive a rarity upgrade, sometimes in the same set, as is the case of Harpy Queen, or Destiny Hero Dasher, and other cards where back then there were Ultimate Rare versions of rare cards in the set with that rare card, giving a cool collectible alternative for players to chase after. This is an Elemental Hero Tempest from DRO4. I don't remember where I got it or why it's in here, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've ever seen anyone else with an Elemental Hero Tempest from DRO4, so it's probably pretty rare. Soul Taker from Gladiator's Assault, my recollection is that that was an extremely short printed card as well. I remember seeing fringe competitive play, because being able to destroy any monster of your choosing is pretty good, and the 1000 life point gain is not particularly relevant, but it didn't store its value for its competitive use. Soul Taker was a very hard to get short printed card, much like Gilgarth, so that's a cool card that I was able to pick up back in the day. Destiny Hero Dasher, super popular right now, because it's used with Fusion Destiny. But it was also a very good card way back when with Elemental Hero Stratos and the entire Destiny engine, including Destiny Draw. Phoenix Wing Windblast also had its time, so it was really powerful as well, and the Ultimate Rare versions are nice to have. Neos Alias was the star of its own Skyscraper deck using Gemini Spark. And Trap Dust Shoot was also a huge card back in the day, because being able to look at your opponent's hand and send a card back to their deck is really strong. Arguably, Trap Dust Shoot has some advantages over even the Forceful Sentry, which is forbidden, as is Trap Dust Shoot, because Trap Dust Shoot actually lets you look at your opponent's hand and disrupt it after they draw a card for their turn, because it's a trap card. On the next page, I just have playsets of really good cards. I've got 3 copies of Ultimate Rare Necrogarna at the top of the next page. All of them are first edition from Tactical Evolution. Necrogarna was a nice card, played in Lightsworn decks. I like Lightsworn decks. I played Lightsworn decks for a little while. I switched over to Gladiator Beasts, but they were very good. It was a good deck, and again, cards that sent cards from the deck to the graveyard had always been good, as had cards that had effects in the graveyard, and Necrogarna, for its time, was one of the best of them. Gladiator Beast Samnite is not particularly relevant now, even in a Gladiator Beast deck, but was a cool card when it was released because it can be summoned with Rescue Cat, and it's a very important card to me because of the fact that I used it to qualify for the World Championship back in 2009. Dekoichi, the Battle-Chanted Locomotive. If you know anything about the old eras of Yu-Gi-Oh, you probably know Dekoichi. Flip effect, draw a card. If you set it and it survives to the next turn, Not only did it replace itself with a new card, but it also has 1400 attack points. Dokoichi comboed with cards like Tsukiyomi to reuse its effect, and many decks at that time, so many years ago, were built around flip effect monsters and basically getting as much value out of cards as you can by replacing them with new draws and still using them either to tribute it for another monster, like a monarch, or just attack. So Dokoichi really shaped an entire format of Yu-Gi-Oh! A couple more competitive cards on the next page. 2 copies of Black Whirlwind from Turbo Pack 1, and that is a super rare Book of Moon from Champion Pack 1. Book of Moon was a great card in the old day, very important in many of the old formats of Yu-Gi-Oh! Black Whirlwind was originally a common upon its release, and got that super rare upgrade in the first Turbo Pack, which was cool. And Black Whirlwind was one of, if not the most important card for a Blackwing deck, so it found a spot in this binder. I honestly don't remember putting a lot of these cards in the binder, but at one point I must have thought that this is a card to hold on to forever. Underneath, you'll see 2 copies of Super Rare Champion Pack 7 Gladiator Beast Bestiary. You're going to see a lot of Gladiator Beasts in my binders because I built so many Gladiator Beast decks and collected so many Gladiator Beast cards because they were so important to me, because I used them so much, because I had so much success with them. So I have 2 copies of Super Rare Bestiaries here. I'm sure I have others in other places. I have no doubt that I have at least a couple in decks from Champion Pack 7. But Bestiary is certainly one of those cards I'm happy to have and will never get rid of. Champion Pack 7 Lonefire Blossom is right here next to it. That's another card that's hard to imagine would ever not be good. And it really does continue to be good, because you can just tribute a plant, including itself, to special summon a plant from your deck. So the more plants there are, the better Lonefire Blossom gets. So it's a powerful card. And this is a super rare version. My recollection is that the original release was only a rare, so this was, in this form, this was a rarity upgrade. Foolish Burial from Turbo Pack 2. Also a great card. Foolish Burial was played in many decks back in the day. It's probably even more powerful now because so many decks rely on card effects activating in the graveyard. Sangan from Turbo Pack 6 is also really cool because Sangan is and always has been a great card. Originally released as a rare in Metal Raiders. I remember it becoming an ultra rare and being shocked, like, wow, ultra rare Sangan. So there he is. The Ultimate Rare Future Fusion, I certainly put in this binder before it received an errata. Again, it's an incredible card. Picked it up in the highest rarity and want to hold on to it forever. Keep in mind, while many of these cards are really rare and hard to come by now, and would be really expensive if you tried to buy them, back then, when these cards were freely circulating, recently around, and I assume there were not as many players back then, these cards were not that hard to get. If you were looking to, compared to the way they are now, if you were looking for them and shopping around, you can find deals on them and you can find exactly what you need. Now, some of these cards, if you want it, you can't even find it. Forget about the price. You can't even find someone selling it. I think part of that might be a function of there being so many more players now. So the cards that were released way back when were released for a smaller pool of players, and now you have a larger pool of players competing for those cards. Again, I just feel very lucky to have them. On the next page, I have no idea why I have 2 Ultimate Rare copies of Twister in here. I can't imagine I ever thought that card would be so good that it should be saved forever. But I do have Cyberdark Impact, which is a cool Zane card that was really hard to come by. and something I would not have let go of. I think this is my only copy, which is probably why I put it in there. Pot of Avarice Ultimate Rare is in there as well from Elemental Energy. Pot of Avarice, phenomenal card, used in many decks for many years until it ultimately got forbidden and was later let back. But what a great card it is. I've used it in Master Duel recently, and that I have no doubt that I put in there because I really thought it would just be good forever, and that was a high rarity of it. 3 copies of Snipe Hunter. They are Champion Pack 3 Super Rares. Really fun card. Not a lot of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh cards involve rolling dice. This is one that was played in many competitive decks. Just being able to target and destroy a card any number of times per turn, as long as you had cards in your hand, made this really good. Sakuretsu Armor is another card that these are the super rare versions from Champion Pack 1, I believe. CP01EN004, Champion Pack 1. Super rare versions. It was originally released as a common, if I recall correctly. This is another card. Whoever thought Sakuretsu Armor would be outclassed by so many cards, right? It's like, at the time, it was only outclassed by Mirror Force, which was limited. Just being able to destroy a normal summon monster once that monster attacked just put you ahead in tempo because your opponent lost their normal summon and a card, and you just flipped a trap. But things have changed so much since then. And I remember Dimensional Prison being released in a video game, and it on its own pretty much outclassed Sakuretsu Armor, where the only disadvantage to Dimensional Prison over Sakuretsu Armor was its use against DD Survivor, because Dimensional Prison banished the attacking monster instead of destroying it, which was in almost all cases better. Although DD Survivor would return to the field if it's banished but not destroyed. So Sakuretsu Armor, phenomenal card in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh! I used it so much. I have so many great memories activating it, which is why it's in this binder. On the next page, I have 3 parallel rares. I think that's what they're called, parallel rares. They're Hobby League versions of Mystic Tomato. Mystic Tomato was a great card. I guess this is the highest rarity of it. I don't think there's an ultimate rare of it in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, at least in America, and in English. So I guess I just put the Hobby League rares in there. But it was another great card. The Giant Rat, Mystic Tomato effect, where if the monster destroyed in battle just replaces itself by searching through the deck, for a long time was really powerful in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Illblood was just a very rare card from Tactical Evolution. 2 of my copies are actually first edition, 1 is not. But Illblood was used in zombie decks, but I remember it being really expensive at one time, over $100 a copy. I'm confident I got it much cheaper. I can't imagine I ever would have spent that on the secret rare version of Illblood, because I never played a zombie deck. But because it was so rare, it was really hard to get. Mobius the Frost Monarch, on the other hand, the ultimate rare is a rarity upgrade of it. It was originally released as a super rare, and the ultimate rare was released alongside it. I believe both were in the same set. But the ultimate rare looks beautiful. I'll show you a copy of it. Looks really nice. Mobius, well, I don't know why I'm showing you the back. Mobius was a very key card for Monarch decks. The very concept of just tributing a monster, particularly a flip effect monster that already used its effect, and destroying 2 cards was absolutely incredible. But being able to do that would often swing a duel in your favor, and the early days of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game actually revolved around that concept. On the next page, I have a lot more cards. Surprise. Again, a lot of these cards are just special to me. X-Saber Airbellum. These are the copies from Dual Terminal 1. DTO1 foils. Very cool. But X-Saber Airbellum was an awesome card, not just for X-Saber decks, but I used it with Rescue Cat and Gladiator Beasts. X-Saber Airbellum, those are dual terminal ultra rares. I think I just thought the dual terminal ultra rares were cool when I put that in the binder. So that's nothing about Airbellum itself. And then I have Ultimate Rare Cyberjar, excuse me, in the bottom left corner from Duelist Pack Kaiba. Very cool card. I have so many fond memories playing Cyberjar before it was forbidden. And the Ultimate Rare looks really nice. And the Chaos Emperor Dragon in the bottom right corner is also a beautiful card. I think if I had to play a version, though, I would play the Secret Rare version that I grew up with. Chaos Emperor is another card. I have so many fond memories just top decking it to get me out of a jam. And those are the things I really remember. I remember vividly so many duels where I draw Chaos Emperor Dragon, use it to win. But I don't remember the duels where my opponent does it to me. And, you know, that's one of the amazing things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Just the beautiful memories that you build playing it. I have no idea why that Super Polymerization is there from Legendary Collection GX. It seems extremely out of place, and it seems like maybe something I threw in there because I could, because the binder was there and the spot was open. So I have no comment on that card. On the next page, 6 copies of Ultimate Rare Gladiator Beast Heraklinos. Again, my affinity for Gladiator Beasts is the reason I have that. I also liked to collect Ghost Rares because they were so hard to come by and pretty unique. Because there was usually one per set, and they really were very unlike any other rarity, and they really stood out when you saw them. They definitely weren't my favorite rarity, because it was sometimes hard to tell what the card was from a distance. Here are 2 copies of Stardust Dragon. Not sure if you could get a good look at it. There's one. This is the second one. And next to that is Ancient Fairy Dragon. And they're nice. The colors are nice when you look at it in person as well. You can kind of see some color in it. And they're really just cool cards, which is why I collected them. So many more here. 2 copies of Black Rose Dragon on the top left. I don't know what card was there. But there's 3 Ghost Rare Power Tool Dragons under the 2 copies of Black Rose Dragon. I'm going to assume at some point I had a Ghost Rare Black Rose Dragon here and pulled it out to put it in a deck that I have stashed away somewhere. On the bottom of the page are 3 copies of Magician of Faith from Champion Pack 2. Magician of Faith, another beautiful card, originally printed as a rare in Metal Raiders. Was just so powerful, especially when it was reused with Tsukiyomi. And the rarity upgrade was very much welcome, and I believe it's extremely desirable now as people are gathering cards for the Time Wizard format. On the next page, I have a couple more Ghost Rares, Black Rose Dragon, Power Tool Dragon, Elemental Hero Chaos Neos, Rainbow Neos, and Red Dragon Archfiend Assault Mode. Not the easiest to see on camera, but you can see them. They're nice in person as you can tilt them. I'll show you the Chaos Neos. They're nice. Ghost Rares are nice. And at the bottom of the page is Mechanical Chaser. These are not the ones from Tournament Pack 1. These are reprints, super rares, from Tournament Pack 3. The original Mechanical Chaser in Tournament Pack 1 was an ultra rare. It was 1 in 108 tournament packs, which was extremely rare. You would get 1 tournament pack for entering at my local OTS, official tournament store. They weren't called OTSs back then, but it was my local official tournament store, the Comic Book Depot. And I was never fortunate enough to pull a Mechanical Chaser. I was fortunate enough to one day pull a Morphing Jar Ultra Rare, which is the one card I ever regret selling. Mechanical Chaser also was a very important competitive card back in the day as well, because it had an extra 50 attack points during a time where attack points were the most important thing on a monster. Beat down monsters like La Jin with 1800 attack points and 7-color Fish with 1800 attack points, Reign Supreme, they would attack one another and the strongest would survive. Mechanical Chaser in Tournament Pack 1 came in there with 50 more attack points and was just able to destroy everything it battled that wasn't tribute summoned. So, Mechanical Chaser is a key piece in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. On the next page, I have 3 Ultimate Rare copies of System Down at the top, followed by Magical Merchants in the middle, and 3 Gravekeeper's Assailants at the bottom. I always liked Gravekeepers. They were a good deck when I was growing up. That's probably why the Assailants are there. Those were originally printed as commons and got super rare upgrades in Turbo Pack 2. Magical Merchant was another great flip effect monster during a time when flip effects were really important in the game. So that is a super rare upgrade in Champion Pack 5. That too was printed originally as a common. And then System Down was originally a rare, and that's the ultimate rare version of it in my binder. But the System Down is interesting because that's a card you read, or I read, and I thought this card at some point will be good. Because it just banishes all machines on their field and in their graveyard at the cost of 1,000 life points. I don't remember if there were any strong machine decks back then, but in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! It was inevitable and that eventually there would be at least one good machine deck, and System Down would get its time. On the next page, I have 3 copies of Wave Motion Cannon, also originally printed as commons. Rarity upgrade was in Champion Pack 5. Wave Motion Cannon was one of my sister's favorite cards because she played a burn deck, and basically she just stalled, tried to get the 8 turns to pass on Wave Motion Cannon, and then just win. So it was an annoying deck to play against for sure. She enjoyed using it, and it being a rarity upgrade, it was a card that I was keen on picking up. I don't know why I have ultra rare copies of Solemn Warning in here. They don't seem like they would belong in here. But this is actually in the middle of it, is a Solemn Judgment. This is in fact the original Metal Raider Solemn Judgment. This one does have the number MRD127. It does not have the EN in it, so you do know that is the oldest printing. Under that is Blaze Accelerator. Again, rarity upgrade from a common. This next page is pretty nice. 3 copies of Toon Table of Contents from Tournament Pack 6. As a fan of the original series, I love Toon Table of Contents. I like tunes. I like Pegasus. And what a great card Toon Table of Contents is, being able to search for any tune. It's unfortunate that at the time it was printed, none of the tunes were very good. None of them were competitive. If you used them in a deck, you probably just got destroyed. And the Toon Table of Contents' only real use was in a deck that would just search for Toon Table of Contents with Toon Table of Contents to speed through the deck. So it didn't have its time back then. Now, Toon Table of Contents is a lot better because we have all those recent tunes that have completely changed the tune deck, and including Toon Blackluster Soldier, Toon Dark Magician, Toon Red Eyes, and other good tune support like Toon Bookmark, all of which I use in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Underneath that, 2 copies of Garoth, rarity upgrades for Lightsworns, which I always enjoyed. Exile the Wicked is just a neat card from Tournament Pack 2. It was a first printing of the card, if I recall correctly. The first printing of the card was that super rare in Tournament Pack 2. Tournament Pack cards were hard to come by, and this has a really niche effect that just destroys all face-up Fiend monsters. I did envision that card eventually being good, because it feels like Dark Hole or Raigeki against the right deck. But I don't recall that card ever actually seeing any competitive play, and now I think we are well past the time of that ever being able to see competitive play with Raigeki so available to duelists. Underneath that, I have Gold and Silva. These are both Ultimate Rare First Edition cards. The Dark Worlds from Elemental Energy. Really cool card. Dark World kind of turned the concept of discarding from your opponent's hand upside down by just reversing the fortune when it happened. Discarding from your opponent's hand was always so powerful. Cards like Don Zalug and Robin Goblin that discarded cards from the opponent's hand were huge. They were huge. They took away your opponent's cards so that you could beat them while they have no cards. But hitting one of these cards, Gold and Silva, with a discard effect was brutal. The Dark World monster would special summon to the field, and then it would rip 2 cards out of your opponent. Either Gold would destroy 2 cards, or Silva would hit them from the hand. So it was just so powerful, and its effect was just so brutal. This Cyber Dragon is from Dark Revelations 4. Always liked Cyber Dragon. Not sure why I put an ultra rare in there. On the next page, 3 copies of Breaker the Magical Warrior from Tournament Pack 7. Breaker was a phenomenal card, and it's actually funny because I remember back in the day not having it. I remember, I really only had the money to get certain cards for my deck, and Breaker was really expensive. I think it was like $30 or $40 at the time, which at the time was really expensive for a card, especially when you're a young kid. And I wanted Breaker, but not more than I wanted other cards. So I remember playing a deck without Breaker for a very long amount of time. I was still doing really well with the deck, so I kept pushing off getting Breaker until just one day an opportunity to buy one arose, and I finally got Breaker. But I remember playing so much without Breaker that I actually forgot about Breaker and convinced myself that maybe I don't need Breaker. But these are actually super rare versions from Tournament Pack 7. I expect that's probably a lot rarer than the ultra rare. It was interesting that that Breaker got a rarity downgrade from ultra to super, but because it's a Tournament Pack card, it's probably treated like an upgrade because it's so much harder to come by. Diamond Dude was a cool card because it can play spells from the top of your deck without using their cost, because it just copies the effect of the spell. So it was great with cards like Destiny Draw, and I also really enjoyed using it in gimmicky decks with cards like A Feather of the Phoenix, and I remember using it also with Crystal Abundance. If you use it with Crystal Abundance, I think it just destroyed all of your... it got rid of all your opponent's cards, is my recollection, and you didn't have to send the 4 Crystal Beasts to the graveyard because that was the cost of the spell effect. So there was just a lot of fun things to do with Diamond Dude, so I certainly remember that fondly as well. I have Graceful Charity at the bottom of the page here. This is Hobby League 4, very sparkly. Graceful Charity was a great card. It's on the forbidden list for a reason, but I have so many fond memories playing it. Not sure why I put Proto Cyber Dragon in here. TP4 Royal Decree. I'm a big fan of Royal Decree. I played Royal Decree for a long time in the GOAT format. I went undefeated at a regional. I lost in the finals of a regional to someone I beat earlier in the regional, so I got second place. But I used a deck using 3 copies of Royal Decree, 3 copies of Asura Priest, 3 copies of Big Bang Shot, and Giant Crunade. Actually, I'm not sure if I played 3 copies of Royal Decree, but I definitely played Royal Decree. And the strategy of the deck was get your opponent to activate Scapegoat, because you're playing in a format where everyone's using it. And once they do, you just sit there until you can safely summon Asura Priest, activate Big Bang Shot to give it 400 attack points, making it 2100 attack points and piercing, and attack all 4 goats for 8400 points of damage. Royal Decree helped to protect that play. So this is one from TP4. I remember having one creased in half. I don't know if that's this one. No, this one's actually pretty nice. On the next page, you'll see 2 copies of Mind Crush. Again, it's all competitive play and was a nice super rare upgrade from a common. Divine Wrath, which can negate a monster effect. Really powerful for its time. One of the earliest competitive cards with that type of effect. Volcanic Rocket was just a good card and a nice strategy. Gravekeeper's Assailant. Again, Gravekeepers are great. Cyber Phoenix, I remember being a great card with competitive use, and that's the ultimate rare version. And at the bottom of the page is Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is just another ghost rare. Okay. On the next page, we have another Gilgarth. As I explained before, it's just a really rare card. Spirit Reaper, which is was a dominant card for so long. I mentioned Don Zalug and Robin Goblin ripping cards out of the opponent's hand before. Spirit Reaper was the king of it. People use that card to attack directly, inflict damage, and knock cards out of the opponent's hand to gain the advantage in a duel. It not being able to be destroyed in battle, I remember I was able to use it so many times to try to mount a comeback, and many times successfully do so. And it being destroyed anytime it was targeted sometimes made it disappear very quickly. I have more dual terminal ultra rares on the bottom of the page. Night Assailant was another rarity upgrade that started as a common, and I remember using it with Graceful Charity, which was extremely strong. Gate Guardian is just a popular anime card that the Paradox brothers use. More copies of Magician of Faith, Glare Beast Samnite on the next page, and then ultimate rare copies of DD Crow. DD Crow was another card that was just so good for so long, and is still good because being able to just get a card out of your opponent's graveyard with an effect you're using from your hand on their turn is really powerful. And I remember also it being used just because it's a dark monster with under 1,000 attack points that you can contribute to activate Crush Card Virus. On the next page, ultimate rare copies of the Transmigration Prophecy. It was never really used, so I'm not sure why I put that in the binder. But I guess at some point I thought it would be a card worth holding forever. And under that is Kremons and Legendary Jujutsu Master. Also super rare versions. I think the most exciting cards have passed. Allure of Darkness was just such a powerful card at its release. There's 2 ultimate rare copies at the top of the page. Green Gadget, I don't know why I have random Green Gadget in here, but Gadgets were phenomenal. It was a really cool deck. I remember being even more excited for them when Xyz monsters were released, because you could combine 2 Gadgets into any rank 4 Xyz monster. And I remember comboing it with Ultimate Offering to summon as many Gadgets as I wanted to, at least for a little while before Ultimate Offering was forbidden. Under that I have Fiend Sanctuary. It's an anime card, so I like it. And then rarity upgrades on Threatening Roar and Gravekeeper's Spy. Gravekeeper's Spy is from Champion Pack 3, as is the Threatening Roar. On the next page, I have Miracle Fusion, Ultimate Rare, and then next to that is a card that says Wonder Fusion, which I believe is a German copy of Miracle Fusion. Then Silent Doom is just another rare, secret rare. Lightning Vortex Ultimate Rare. It's another card that I thought, hey, this card will always be good, which is kind of how I feel about Lightning Storm right now, but times change, things change. So obviously, Lightning's Vortex was an okay card when Raigeki was forbidden, but now you would never even consider using Lightning Vortex in your deck. More copies of Heraclinos, another Jokoichi. Beckoning Light's another rarity upgrade. Anti-Raigeki is just a really funny card because there's a Raigeki and there's an anti-Raigeki. It was just baffled me that they made a card to stop a card, a specific card. There is no more specific counter than that one. Ultimate Rare copies of Heralds. Those were cool because they were effects you can use from your hand. 3 Herald of the Purple Light, 3 Herald of the Green Light. Anytime I wonder what color trap cards are, I remember Herald of the Purple Light. Trap cards must be purple. So those are the Heralds. Old Vindictive Magician was just another great flip effect monster that at one time dominated the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Oh, this is on the next page is the Royal Decree I mentioned before. I knew I had a TP4 Royal Decree that was creased in half. That is definitely this one. I got it, I remember buying it creased in half, and it was really cheap, and I just wanted it for my deck. At this point, probably it's a marked card. I don't know if it's gotten worse since then, so I would not try to play this Royal Decree in my deck. But, you know, Royal Decree was an expensive card. It's painful to see one creased in half, but I remember being happy to pick one up because I didn't have any at the time. Chaos Sorcerer, inferior to Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning, inferior to the old Chaos Emperor Dragon, but still an incredible card. Prohibition. I don't know if there's a card I dislike more than Prohibition because it has so many confusing rules around it, and it had many different rulings that were told to me throughout the many years at events. Ring of Destruction I love because it's a Kaiba card. This is an Ultimate Rare copy from Duelist Pack Kaiba. Awesome. There's another copy of Dasher. On the next page, more Dual Terminal Ultra Rares. Goyo Guardian was just a great card, so there's an ulti that I stashed away to hold forever. Deck Devastation Virus I always really liked. It's just really strong being able to just wipe out your opponent's cards. Crush cards on the bottom as well for that same reason. Also Ultimate Rares. And then I have super rare copies of Phoenix Wing Windblast, which is a card I discussed before. On the next page, we have 3 copies of Overload Fusion, a beautiful Ultimate Rare card that is still good today. I use it in my Cyber Dragon deck that I've been playing on Master Duel and in TCG tournaments. This is looks like this is actually Dual Terminal Preview 1 Goyo Guardian, so that's really cool. The DTP1 cards were only available, I believe it was at a card shop in California, sort of testing out the dual terminal. I did not get this copy there. I did, however, go to the National Championship or World Championship qualifier, if you prefer to call it that year, and they also had a dual terminal giving out DTP1 cards. So I probably got it there. Magical Stone Excavation is another anime card and is at the center of some combo decks. Hydrogeddon's a great card I remember playing. Searches for more Hydrogeddons. You build an army of Hydrogeddons. It was really awesome, and it's a dinosaur, and when did we have good dinosaurs back then? Necroface is just a really rare card and exchanges the spirit. Was at the core of an OTK that quickly beat the opponent. On the next page, I have 3 Ultimate Rare copies of Cyber Dragon. None of them actually in English. 2 of them are Cyber Drash. I think they're German. One of them is definitely French. If I had to guess, I probably got them from my friend Matt at some point because he collected foreign cards, and I was never really big on getting foreign cards. But the allure of Ultimate Rare Cyber Dragon is too hard to resist. It's a beautiful card, and I really like Cyber Dragon. Top of the page, 3 Ultimate Rare First Edition Test Tiger. Test Tiger, again, Gladiator's card, always been great to me. Underneath, Dark Armed Dragon. 2 Secret Rares, one of them is First Edition. Again, Dark Armed Dragon was just, you know, the boogeyman of a format. It was so powerful. Hard to imagine, you know, it ever leaving. It was just so strong. The X-Saber Airbellum here is just another nice dual terminal foil. On the next page, 2 copies of super rare Morphing Jars. Great card. I have so many good memories playing Morphing Jar. Again, I do not own an ultra rare. It is the one card that I've always wanted that eluded me because I sold it when I was a kid. Probably needed money for Destiny Draws and Destiny Hero Maliciouses. And although I have a very incredible collection, I certainly regret getting rid of that one card. Couple more rarity upgrades under it. Rescue Cats at the bottom. Rescue Cat, again, key card to get me to Worlds. On the next page, Brain Control, another awesome card. Dominated so many formats. I have enough loose Smashing Ground there. Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, great card. Heart of Many Dragon in combo decks. Honest is a card that, again, I really would have thought would be good forever, and as more light monsters got released, would just get better, because it makes sure your light monster always wins the battle. But I guess as Yu-Gi-Oh! Became a little bit less battle-oriented, Honest became a little bit weaker. So, you know, I would have thought Honest is a card to stash away. It'll be good forever, at least in some decks. But yeah, I can't remember the last time somebody used Honest against me. Couple more rare secret rares on the next page. Glider Beast as well, dual terminal cards as well. More Rescue Cats. I collected Rescue Cats. I remember Vittorio Victor at the 2009 World Championship just telling all of us Americans that he summons the cat and he wins. And we all had a good laugh about how easy he made it sound. And he is so adorable. Look at little Rescue Cat. Turbo Pack 3. So cute. And the foiling is so nice. So I got a lot of Turbo Pack 3 Rescue Cats. Even with the errata, it's a great card. I use it in my Glider Beast Tri-Brigade deck on Master Duel. I have a lot of Airbellums in this binder. Next page, Caius, the Shadow Monarch. I talked about Monarchs and how key they were in the history of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. Warrior Elimination is another card that I would think, hey, this card will one day be good when Warriors reign supreme. And I could not have been more wrong about a card. Because the best Warrior deck that really came up was 6 Samurai, which just negates Warrior Elimination with the effect of Shonen. So I was very wrong on that one. But it is a TP7 super rare, so it is pretty hard to come by. Got many more Test Tigers. Again, Glider Beast cards I basically just collected forever. I'm never surprised to see a Glider Beast card. Another Future Fusion. But this Raigeki is from DB1, it looks like. I don't know why I stashed that in there. And then I got 3 Ultimate Rare Cyber Dragons. I remember buying one near mint online, and it was really not near mint. It was at best light play. I don't know which one of the 3 it is. This one looks pretty bad. It was probably this one. But still cool. Actually, this I think is an Ultra. Well, it's only 2 Ultis. So yeah. Not in the best shape, but these cards are so old, that's to be expected. A couple more goodies on this page. DD Warrior was another Tournament Pack Ultra Rare. I think it was released after DD Assailant, so it never really got its time to shine because it was already outclassed upon its release. Vanish of the Radiance is really good for stun strategies. Judgment Dragon Ultimate Rare is just a beautiful card. On the next page, more dual terminal ultras. I always liked the look. I always collected them. Screech and Tongue Twister, I believe, were cards released in the TCG before they were released in Japan, because they, I believe, were the product of an art contest. Correct me if I'm wrong. So They're interesting looking cards and they're really cool. This is a starter deck Yugi Dark Magician. This is one of the most special cards to me. It is signed by Dan Green, the voice actor for Yugi Moto, as well as Yami Yugi. And he wrote, "Thanks for being a great duelist for me." So this is really special to me. There's a story behind the card, but the short of it is, that was the first time I met him, and I have met him many times since. But when I first met him and he signed it, I was blown away. And then just some more rarity upgrades on the next page. A lot of brain controls. It's a great card. A couple Fossil Dynas and Cyber Dragons. And finally, a couple more Royal Decrees. A Magical Thorn, which is just a rare card. Ultra Rare Book and Moon from Turbo Pack 7. A couple of Honest. And looks like that is an ultra rare Hobby League Scapegoat. So, Ghost Rider, Drunk Berserker. So that's the binder. You know, I spent an entire lifetime collecting cards. These are the highlights of my collection. I do have some other more valuable cards in other binders. You know, I just collected a lot of cards and held them really long. Now I'm married, I have a daughter, and I just went back, opened the binder, and shared it with you all on YouTube, and it's here. You know, these cards were not always rare and not always hard to get, but I just loved Yu-Gi-Oh! My whole life, collected my entire life, and now I have an incredible collection. But the most important thing about the collection is really the memories it brings me. I love looking through the binders. A lot of times I look through my more recent stuff, but if I don't look at it like an old binder in a long time, it's just so cool to go through it, remind myself of all the duels I've had, how great it was, all the people I've met, the friends I've made. Almost all my friends I played cards with back then and still play cards with now. And it really is an incredible feeling. And I am very fortunate to have been a part of it and to have enjoyed playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game so much in my lifetime.